This is Ella Goody, a 33-year-old mother of two and an Uber driver from Lafayette, Louisiana, who would be shot dead in her own vehicle just moments after carrying a passenger across town. But what makes this case particularly heartbreaking is that Ella's body would go missing for over 3 years. Ella was last seen leaving her home to drive a passenger to Houston, Texas. She promised to return that same day, but by the time her daughters came home from school, Ella was nowhere to be found. Ella wasn't just a mother. She was a hard worker, someone whom life dealt an unfair hand. With determination and the pursuit of a better life, she pressed on. But nothing prepared her for the price she had to pay, especially with her life. But before we get to the heartbreaking details of what happened on that trip, let me take you back to Lafayette, Louisiana, where it all began, because understanding who Ella was makes what happened next even harder to swallow. Ella Goody was born on March 9, 1989 in Lafayette, Louisiana, located about an hour away from Baton Rouge, where she would spend much of her life. Growing up in a small but tight family, Ella always had a heart for others, especially her mother, who was disabled, and her younger brother. From a young age, she took on the responsibility of caretaker, balancing the demands of family life with her studies and still managing to thrive academically. She was no stranger to hard work, always putting others' needs before her own, showing a level of maturity far beyond her years. Tragically, this was the same hard work and determination that would lead to her sudden disappearance. Ella's commitment to her family only grew as she got older. After graduating from high school in Lafayette, she worked hard to build a life that would support her loved ones. Throughout her childhood, she developed lasting friendships with many, and her reputation as someone who would always lend a helping hand followed her into adulthood. She became known as the dependable friend, the one who would show up no matter what, and the person others could rely on in times of need. By 2022, Ella had become a mother herself, raising 2 young daughters in Scott, Louisiana, a small, close-knit town near Lafayette. Despite the challenges she faced, Ella's strength, resilience, and determination to provide for her children was unshakable. She was a woman who embodied what it meant to persevere, even in the face of adversity. Her best friend, Felicia, described her as having a good spirit and a pure heart, someone who was always friendly, full of energy, and willing to help others without hesitation. But Ella was struggling financially. To make ends meet, Ella began driving for Lyft. Her best friend, Felicia, had suggested this when Ella was seeking employment. At first, she was nervous about picking up passengers she didn't know, but she soon grew to enjoy the freedom that came with the job. She quickly developed a rapport with regular riders, which would give her an idea for extra cash. Ella decided to start offering rides outside of the Lyft app, providing an even greater service to people in her community. Her entrepreneurial spirit was fueled by her desire to support her daughters and make sure they had everything they needed, no matter the sacrifices she had to make. Little did Ella know that this decision would lead to a dangerous chain of events. On March 9, 2022, Ella would receive a call from a man named Brandon Francisco, who asked for a ride to Houston, Texas. Expecting it to be a simple, routine trip, Ella left her home in Scott, Louisiana early that morning. She had plans to return later that same day before her daughters came home from school. But by the time the school bell rang that afternoon, Ella was nowhere to be found. The drive from Scott to Houston typically takes about 3 hours one way, meaning a round trip would usually take around 6 hours, give or take. Given the relatively short distance and her plans to return in the afternoon, it seemed like Ella would be home well before the day ended. But as the hours passed and the sun began to set, there would be no sign of her. What made the situation even more unsettling was that Ella hadn't just spoken to her daughters that morning. Later, that same day, around noon, she had called her brother. During their brief conversation, she mentioned she was driving someone to Houston and that everything was fine, or so she thought. She even told him they had stopped to get gas, reassuring him that everything was on schedule. That call would, tragically, be the last time anyone in Ella's family would hear from her. Soon, what Ella assumed would be a short trip would become her missing persons case. Ella's family, increasingly concerned as the hours turned into days, contacted the authorities. By March 11th, Ella's brother filed a missing persons report with the police. The family and Ella's best friend told authorities that Ella was driving someone to Houston, but no one had heard from her since then.
If you're listening, know that your family is never, ever is going to give up on you. No. We're going to look for you until God say, tell us one way or the other. But we're here for you. So please, Ella, whatever you could do to get away, find a way, please.
An Acadiana family pleading for help in locating their loved one. Good evening, everyone. Tonight marks 1 week since Ella Goody was last seen, and police have now identified someone they want to talk to in the case. Goody, who's 32 years old, was last seen driving on I-10 West. Her family tells us she was giving someone a ride to Texas, but hasn't been heard from since. Megan Glover joins us live from outside Scott Police. And Megan, how's her family holding up?
Jim, the family is coping through prayer. We just heard Ella's aunt speaking, and they're pleading for a safe return. Ella Goody is a mother of 2 girls, 13 and 14 years old. Her family say she told her daughter she would be back by the end of school last Wednesday after driving someone to Houston.
Then she spoke to her daughter on that day, that morning, and said, make sure that she was going to school, go to school, and her mom was going to be back before she get back from school. That she was just going to go bring this person to Houston, and she was going to come back.
Goody had worked as a rideshare driver, but police say she was suspended from doing so at the time of her trip. But family members say she started offering driving services on her own.
This guy asked her to bring it to Houston. From her heart, she said, yeah, man, give me the money, pay me to bring it to Houston, I'm going to bring it to Houston.
Authorities began reviewing surveillance footage. Soon, they would find something suspicious. On March 10th, just a day after the family had heard from Ella, surveillance cameras captured footage of Ella's car, an Audi Q5, heading toward Houston. But then, strangely, 12 hours later, the car was seen turning around and heading back toward Louisiana, only to be spotted again near Dallas. The movements of her vehicle were erratic and suspicious, and with no clear explanation. Worst off, Ella's windows were tinted, so no one really knows if she was the person driving or not. This development left everyone wondering what had happened to Ella. Despite the clues and the potential leads, no one knew exactly where she was or what had occurred after she made that final phone call. The mystery surrounding her disappearance deepened with each passing hour. Ella's family was left in an agonizing state of uncertainty, trying to make sense of her sudden vanishing act. What should have been a simple drive was turning into an unimaginable nightmare. By March 16th, since authorities now knew that the last known person to have been with Ella was Brandon Francisco, they quickly made him a person of interest in the case. No one knows the relationship between Ella and Brandon, but her cousins shared that Ella had given Brandon rides a few times before.
Police have identified Brandon Francisco as a person of interest. Family members say he is the person who Goody gave a ride to Texas. They're not sure if they knew one another.
We do show that on the 9th, her vehicle was picked up on I-10 heading towards Texas in the early morning hours. And approximately 12 hours later, he was picked up back in Louisiana, coming back towards Lafayette area. The very next day, after we come back up into Louisiana, her vehicle is tracked in north of Dallas.
Family members hoping and praying for the best.
Hopefully, no, we're not expecting any type of foul play. All we want is for her to come home safe. And whomever you are, if you're watching this, all we ask is that you turn yourself in.
Chief Leger urges anyone who has information on Francisco or Goody to contact the Scott Police Department.
After the search for Ella extended beyond Louisiana, the FBI and U.S. Marshals were called in to assist with the investigation. Due to the multiple jurisdictions involved spanning Louisiana, Missouri, and Texas, federal resources were deemed essential. Ella's family hoped that the involvement of the FBI would expedite the investigation and provide the necessary resources to uncover the truth. But now, the police seem to be on a snail walk.
Many different agencies were on the ground in Iowa in search of new evidence for Ella Goody. News 10's Rodrika Taylor has been there alongside the different groups tracking new developments. Rodrika, what have you learned?
Good evening, Dalford. That is right. Many different agencies were here today searching for anything to try to help locate Ella Goody. Trooper Derek Senegal told me they haven't found any evidence, but they want to continue to search this area for anything that can help the case.
This area right here is about a 50 square mile area, and within that area there are specific areas they are targeting to try to locate evidence.
All hands were on deck in the search of Ella Goody as many different agencies went out in teams.
We have Louisiana State Police out here. We have Louisiana State Police Air Support had helped us out here. We have the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office, and we also have the Class Kids National Search Organization that's assisting with us today.
Each agency formed a group and they searched in nearby areas.
They're going out and it's all being monitored and notated with GPS of where they're going and what they're tracking.
Trooper Derek Senegal says Iowa is where Goody's cell phone location was last known.
So the goal today is to find some type of evidence that's going to just lead us to wherever she's at.
I followed along with Calcasieu Parish Sheriff Office team as they search a nearby area where residents were concerned.
We're covering every square foot of this because we saw some buzzards here.
The team walked slowly into the wooded area searching.
Anything that's out of the ordinary. Man-made stuff.
Checking in with each other to see if there's any new evidence.
Brother, I'm over here. You see me? All right.
If there isn't any type of update, of course, we will update that original release, press release that we had about, trying to locate Mrs. Goody.
Trooper Senegal says they're doing everything they can do to try to find Ella. He also says be careful of rumors being spread around. Live in Iowa, Rodrika Taylor, KLFY.
Ella's family, who had already begun searching for her, felt frustration mounting as they believed the police weren't acting quickly enough. So they took matters into their own hands and began printing a missing person flyer and sharing the news. According to authorities, Ella's phone had last pinged in Iowa, Louisiana, so her family conducted searches there too. They expressed their concerns about the lack of attention and resources being used to find her. Ella's best friend, Felicia, even commented on how much more support was given to other missing persons cases nearby in Lafayette. But what investigators would find next was just the beginning of a chilling series of events. Brandon Francisco was no ordinary passenger. He had a massive criminal history. At the time of Ella's disappearance, Brandon was already on law enforcement's radar. Not only that, in 2018, Brandon faced charges including attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, armed robbery, statutory rape, unlawful use of movable, and obstruction of justice. Remember the day Ella disappeared? Brandon had an active warrant for failing to appear in court on the same day Ella drove him to Texas. He was supposed to face charges related to a serious criminal case, and now his failure to attend the court hearing only added to the growing suspicions surrounding his involvement in Ella's case. After learning about Brandon's criminal background, the police began focusing their efforts on tracking him down. Brandon was eventually tracked down by U.S. Marshals in St. Joseph, Missouri, 12 hours from Lafayette, and arrested on March 25, 2022. He initially resisted arrest, but was eventually taken into custody. He was denied bond and had to wait to be extradited back to Louisiana. On April 6th, Brandon was extradited back to Louisiana, and he was denied bond yet again. His arrest offered some hope for Ella's family that they might finally get answers. Or so they thought.
New developments tonight in the disappearance of missing Scott woman Ella Goody. A person of interest is now in custody after authorities arrested him this afternoon in Missouri. It's believed Brandon Francisco was the last person who came in contact with Goody before her disappearance on March 9th. Now, he had a warrant out of Rapides Parish for failing to appear in court on the exact same day Goody was last seen. News 10's Britt LaFaso tells us how Goody's family and the community are reacting to Francisco's arrest.
People close to Ella Goody say though this person of interest has been found, Ella is still missing, and this arrest is only further motivating the community to find her.
Can you share this with people, please? Trying to find Ella. She's been missing since March the 9th.
Hello, help find Miss Ella.
Volunteers spent hours Friday afternoon handing out flyers to the community, making sure people know that Ella is still missing.
Hello. Hey, help find Miss Ella.
Sometimes it takes a village, sometimes it takes a community to protect each other. And while we may not know her personally, but she could be our daughter, she could be our sister, she could be our mother.
John Milton, Bishop of the Amani Temple African American Catholic Congregation, is part of one of many organizations in Acadiana helping in this search.
And since this information has surfaced about her disappearance and the suspicious circumstance of her disappearance, we believe that all of us, the whole community, should be alert and aware and conscious, because who knows? No one knows who might get information.
The Village 337, a Lafayette civil rights group, also doing what they can to bring Ella home.
We are still hopeful, of course, that Ella is alive, and that is the #1 goal and focus, is to make sure that we find her alive and well. Initially, our mode was to find him.
Savon Norman with the Village 337 says now that the person last seen with Ella has been found and arrested, the FBI, who became involved in the case last week, can learn more about Ella's last whereabouts. They hope this will give them a better idea of where to search.
The family is now ready to start search efforts of their own. And so that is kind of the focus now, where we will begin to, as more information comes out from the arrest, hopefully we will be able to begin search efforts for Ella in specific locations that we know he traveled, because that will be an indicator of where we believe she may have traveled as well.
However, despite being in custody, Brandon was not charged with Ella's disappearance, and the police did not reveal the exact details of what he said when questioned about Ella. Despite Brandon's arrest, authorities were careful with the details they released, leading to growing frustration within Ella's family, who felt they weren't being told the whole truth. Meanwhile, across town, another piece of the puzzle was falling into place. Almost 3 weeks after Ella's disappearance, a significant lead surfaced when her black Audi Q5 was found in St. Joseph, Missouri, the same place where Brandon Francisco had been arrested. The car was impounded, and investigators began the meticulous process of collecting evidence from inside the vehicle.
State police say the car belonging to missing Scott woman Ella Goody was found today. Goody herself is still missing. The discovery of her vehicle comes 3 weeks after her family first reported her missing on March 9th. News 10's Britt LaFaso, who has been investigating this story from the very beginning, tells us where her vehicle was discovered and how police hope it could lead to crucial evidence in this case. Britt.
Goody's vehicle was found this morning in St. Joseph, Missouri, the same city that the person of interest in her disappearance was located and arrested just last week. As police continue to question that person of interest, they say the next step in this case is to find any physical evidence that may be in Goody's vehicle, ultimately leading them to find her.
So they're going to continue to look through that whole vehicle on a more deeper level, other than just like looking at it and confirm, yeah, that's it. Okay, what else can we see? Is there's, fibers in the carpet? Is there something within the fabric on there? Maybe we can get a fingerprint off of the upholstery, off the window, or anything like that. So we're going to continue to go through that whole vehicle, inside and out.
Louisiana State Trooper Derek Senegal says they hope any physical evidence they find in Goody's vehicle could help them piece together what happened in the time between March 9th, when Goody allegedly left Lafayette with Brandon Francisco, and now. The main question, how did Francisco and Goody's vehicle both end up in Missouri without her? And where is she now?
All these things have to be put together and continue digging to figure out, what's going on, how can we piece everything together with someone else. If there is, or could be, or, maybe there is someone else involved with this thing. So we just have to make sure that we continue to look and not just say, hey, we're good, we found it, and just close the case. We just can't do it that way. So we're going to continue looking and exhaust every effort that we have for this.
Trooper Senegal says there's still a lot of focus on Brandon Francisco, the person believed to have last been seen with Goody. With Francisco in custody and Goody's vehicle found, police say they hope they can narrow down where Goody may be.
I mean, a vehicle is just an object, just a thing, but we'd rather find a person wherever she's at. Of course, like I said, we find a vehicle that's good on the investigation part, and now we just have to continue with that, like I say, sometimes those the evidence or clues lead to other things. Like I say, maybe it could just lead to her to figure out where she is.
The family is full right now with emotion, trying to understand these new developments and what they mean or what they could mean. The family is still hopeful that Ella is still alive, but right now they are worried that all of these interactions, specifically with these being reported to the FBI, reported to the Scott Police, is kind of getting in the way of the investigation that's taking place.
And as we've mentioned, Brandon Francisco is believed to be the last person to see Ella Goody before she went missing on March 9th. Reports show in 2008, Francisco was convicted of statutory and attempted second-degree. Later in 2018, he was charged with attempted conspiracy to commit armed robbery, unlawful use of a movable, and obstruction of justice. He was set to appear in court for these charges the day Ella Goody went missing, though he failed to show up. Francisco will have his second bond hearing Monday in Missouri. At this time, he is fighting extradition back to Louisiana.
Though no new developments were announced immediately, investigators promised to exhaust all efforts in uncovering any clues the car might hold. The state trooper in charge emphasized the importance of thoroughly searching the car, stating that they were looking for fibers, fingerprints, or any other evidence that could help piece together what had happened to Ella. It was clear that the car might hold vital information, but the authorities kept the specifics close to their chest, adding to the mounting tension and confusion surrounding the case. Along with searching Missouri and Texas, investigators also focused on Iowa, Louisiana, where Ella's cell phone had last pinged. On April 1, 2022, an extensive search was conducted in a 50-mile radius of the area where her phone had been last detected. Louisiana State Police, along with other agencies, mobilized for this search, but unfortunately, no new evidence was uncovered. Despite the lack of findings, law enforcement maintained their commitment to the case, reassuring the public that they would continue searching until they had more answers. On May 3, 2022, after 2 months of investigating, the Louisiana State Police made a public announcement that they were shifting the focus of the investigation from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation. They cited investigative techniques and witness statements as the basis for this conclusion. However, this announcement was met with mixed reactions. While some hoped this shift would lead to a breakthrough, others felt it was premature, especially since Ella's body had not been found. Ella's family refused to accept that she was dead, despite the police's statements. They continued to push for answers, desperate to find out what had really happened to their loved one. As the months dragged on, the pressure mounted for law enforcement to release more information, but the investigation seemed to stall. On May 20, 2022, Ella's family held a vigil in her honor, where they spoke about their continued hope that she would be found alive. Her cousin Amy made it clear that despite the police's declaration of homicide, they would not give up on their search.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us on this Friday night. Friends and family of missing Scott woman Ella Goody held a vigil for her tonight.
Goody was last seen March 9th traveling to Texas. Police found Goody's vehicle in Missouri a month later. On May 3rd, state police announced they began investigating Goody's disappearance as a homicide. News 10's Britt LaFaso was at the vigil held in remembrance of Goody tonight. In our top story, she spoke with Goody's family, who say they still believe she could be alive.
Friends and family of Ella Goody say this is a celebration that she is still here with them. They say all these lights they're holding up behind me represents Ella's spirit. They're praying and hoping that she is still alive and will come home safe. Ella Goody's cousins say while they are remembering her tonight, they are not remembering a person who is gone.
I believe remembering is that, so nobody forget about her. So the community can know that we're still going to keep fighting until we find her.
We all keeping her faith because we know that she's still alive, because we know she's coming back.
Despite state police now investigating Goody's disappearance as a homicide, her cousins say they do not believe she's...
It don't make me feel no type of way because I don't believe it's homicide because there's nobody. I mean, how could it be a homicide when there's nobody that's found? So, I don't believe it.
We asked Goody's family why they feel she hasn't contacted them in over 2 months if she is in fact alive.
I feel like she's in a dangerous situation. I think that somebody have her, against her will. But I really feel in my heart that she will be set free. They're going to have to let her go. But we know she's not. We know she's alive.
Goody's cousin says she's waiting for the day Ella comes home. She knows exactly what she'll say to Ella when she sees her again.
I'm going to tell her that, we all miss you. We was missing you. We was all worried and, stressing. And we just happy to have her back.
If you have any information about Ella Goody, you are encouraged to contact state police. Reporting in Lafayette, Brett LaFonso, KLFY News 10.
The vigil was a poignant reminder of Ella's spirit, and it brought together a community that refused to give up on finding the truth. But what investigators discovered next would change everything. In November 2024, a federal grand jury indicted Francisco for Ella's murder. In a press release issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office, it was revealed that a federal grand jury in Lafayette, Louisiana had returned an indictment against 38-year-old Brandon Jermaine Francisco from Mansur, Louisiana. The charges against him included carjacking resulting in the death of Ella Goody, a tragedy that shocked the community. In addition to the carjacking charge, Francisco is facing several other serious charges. These charges include using a firearm during the commission of a violent crime, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and flight to avoid prosecution. The latter charge stems from his efforts to evade law enforcement after the incident. The federal indictment against Brandon Jermaine Francisco details the shocking events that led to the tragic death of Ella Goody on March 9, 2022. According to the charges, Francisco, who was already serving a 30-year sentence on an unrelated case with the intent to cause serious harm or death, took a 2012 Audi Q5 SUV from Ella by force, violence, and intimidation, ultimately resulting in her death. The indictment further alleges that on the same day, Francisco used a 9mm caliber handgun to discharge multiple rounds during the carjacking, making the crime even more brutal. It also details that Francisco possessed the handgun and 4 rounds of ammunition, knowing that he had previously been convicted of a felony. Additionally, the indictment states that from March 9th to March 25th, 2022, Francisco traveled across state lines with the intent to avoid prosecution for his alleged crime, a charge that carries the death penalty under Louisiana law.
Authorities say a man has been indicted in the death of Ella Goody.
In March of 2022, Goody was reported missing. The case then turned into a homicide investigation. News 10's Rodrika Taylor is in the studio with reactions on today's indictment. Rodrika.
It was in April I spoke to a family member of Ella Goody as they were waiting for answers. They say it was like holding your breath. The family can breathe a little now that they have some clarity of what happened to Goody, but questions still remains, such as where is her body?
Every time a new piece of information is shared about Ella, it does give a small sense of hope to the family that they can receive some answers that they seek.
The family did not wish to speak as they received the updated news in Goody's case after 2.5 years waiting for answers. It came. United States Attorney Brandon Brown announced that a federal grand jury in Lafayette has returned an indictment charging Brandon Francisco with carjacking, resulting in Goody's death. She was a contract driver and picked up Francisco to be taken to Houston, Texas. Goody was reported missing in March 2022. Francisco was arrested in St. Joseph, Missouri on unrelated charges out of Rapiche Parish. In April of 2022, Goody's car was found. Law enforcement searched an area of the interstate near the Calcasieu-Jeff Davis Parish line, which was the last location of Goody's cell phone. In May, state police announced her case was being investigated as a homicide. After nearly a year in 2023, her case was handed over to the Calcasieu Parish District Attorney's Office. The following year, new information surfaced, with the United States Attorney's Office confirming the result of Goody's.
Unfortunately, we are not prepared to make a comment about the new information that you guys have received. However, we are prepared to continue to fight for Ella and with her family. And we are asking the community to continue to lift her up and her family up in your prayers as they process what this new information means for her and for them.
Authorities say in addition to the carjacking charge, Francisco is charged with 1 count of using a firearm during the crime, possession of a gun by a convicted felon, and flight to avoid prosecution.
While Francisco's arrest has provided some relief to Ella's family, who have been relentlessly seeking justice, the investigation remains incomplete. Tragically, Ella's body has still not been found, and many unanswered questions continue to hang over the case. As authorities work to uncover the full truth, the Goody family remains in search of closure. The case moved slowly through the courts, but her family never stopped fighting to keep her memory alive. Finally, on November 21, 2025, after 3 years of anguish, Brandon Francisco stood before a judge. He pled guilty to carjacking resulting in death. The courtroom heard how he had taken Ella's life and abandoned her car, erasing her future in an act of senseless violence. The judge handed down a mandatory life sentence in federal prison. For Ella's loved ones, the sentencing brought a measure of justice, though not true closure. Her body has never been found, and that unanswered question, the where and the why, continues to haunt those who cared for her. The space she once filled in their lives remains painfully empty, a silence that no courtroom decision can ever completely heal. Family members still wake up hoping for answers, for a chance to lay her to rest, for even the smallest fragment of peace. Yet, despite the lingering grief, the conviction stands as a powerful acknowledgement of her life and the injustice done to her. It ensures that the man responsible for her suffering, the man who stole her future, will never walk free again. The ruling doesn't erase the pain, but it affirms that Ella mattered. Her story was heard, her voice, though silenced, was defended, and her killer will face the consequences of his actions.
The 1-year anniversary of her disappearance, Ella Goody's family and friends are doing their part to keep her case relevant.
Darcy Ortiq joins us live in studio to show us how the community is rallying together to help try to get Ella home. Darcy?
Keep hope alive. That's the message city officials say they want the community to do while the search for Ella Goody and many other persons continues.
The Lord is my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I be afraid?
Family members and loved ones of Ella Goody, a Scott woman who went missing a year ago, gathered to pray and ask the community to speak up if they know anything about her disappearance.
Nobody told me the word would be easy.
Jessica Goody, Ella's cousin, says every day since March 9th, 2022 has been difficult.
Big energy. Her laugh is infectious. Anytime she's in the room, you know that she's there. And to not have that in our lives right now is hard.
Ella was last seen giving Brandon Francisco a ride from Louisiana to Texas when she vanished, leaving her kids grieving for their mother.
They miss her. One is 15, one is 14, the son is 15, the girl is 14. I don't want to say their names on camera. They need their privacy, but every day they missing her.
Community activist Selena Charles says she has been supporting the Goody family since the beginning.
This happened with Ella going missing, and he was involved, the last person to see her alive. I had to support the family.
City Council member Patrick Lewis says it's not too late. Things can turn around for the Goody family.
Just want everyone, as I say, to have hope and keep it alive, and you never know. Again, if anyone knows something, somebody should know something, please go to the police officer or go to the family members and tell them what you know. That's how we can solve this tragedy.
I will wait on you, yeah. I will trust in you till I die. I will trust in you.
This community gathering was not only for Ella Goody, but also Dion Cluett, Nathaniel Lee Melancon, Rakeem Celestine, and several others who are missing. The event was designed to spread awareness about the growing number of missing persons right here in Acadiana. If you have any information regarding these people, please contact police. Live in studio, Darcy Ortiq, KATC TV3.
In a world where so many victims never receive justice, Ella's case serves as a reminder that persistence, love, and a community's determination can bring the truth to light. Her loved ones fought tirelessly not just for a verdict, but for her memory. And though they continue to carry the weight of her absence, they do so knowing that the system did not fail her entirely. Ella's story is a painful one, marked by betrayal, loss, and unanswered questions, but it is also a testament to the strength of those who refuse to give up. Even without physical remains, her spirit lives on in every person who has spoken her name, shared her story, or demanded justice on her behalf. Her life touched many, and her disappearance sparked conversations about safety, accountability, and the importance of reporting suspicious behavior, no matter how small it might seem. Her case stands as a stark reminder that evil often hides in familiar places, and that justice, though sometimes delayed, still matters. For her family, friends, and the community that rallied behind her, Ella's memory is a guiding light, one that pushes them to advocate for others, to support victims, and to demand answers where silence threatens to prevail. Her story will not be forgotten. Her name will not fade, and even in her absence, Ella's legacy continues to inspire the fight for truth, justice, and the protection of every life that might otherwise go overlooked.
What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.